Hello there. My name is Megan, and this is the worlds we co-create. And honestly, this is a channel where I explore all of the theory and retell some of the practices that I am engaging in for co-creating the world that I want to live in. A world that feels safe and sensual and fun for me to explore every day. And so the funny thing about reality creation is that so much of it takes place inside of your own head. There's actually very little real world manipulation that has to take place in order for us to be powerful co-creators. And I want to share, I honestly just want to walk through my story over the past few months because I almost don't believe it myself, and this will help me synthesize a lot of the experiences that I have undergone, okay? So, rundown. Former evangelical kid turned like super empathic social justice teacher, turned expat in China, turned US classroom teacher who got burnt out, turned flight attendant, and in March I quit. Because again, I didn't reach burnout at that point. I had learned how that burnout is usually a spiritual ailment. And so I'm grateful to flight attending because it taught me a lot of spiritual tools for how to care for myself energetically. Anyway, the point is the spiritual work that I'm here to do, and I say spiritual and it's educational because I want to tie in all learning is spiritual growth. Because every piece of information that you meet that you don't know yet, you have to meet yourself, meet the version of yourself that is either unwilling to rearrange for the new information to make its way in, or meet yourself with the grief of not having known that information before. So if you are a person who is consistently desiring expansion, desiring to know a new take, a new avenue of life, a new perspective, and you are like readily and willingly rearranging your psychic architecture, you've been on a spiritual journey for a long time. You just might not have known it. And maybe you do. I don't know who you are. This is for me and for us, and an experiment in honestly and authentically sharing the signal that resides in these beautiful little electromagnetic meat suits, right? But so I realized that I was doing a lot of spiritual work on the plane. Like I was using my field to create enough coherence to keep everybody on the plane safe. That's fucking taxing, honestly. And so I was traveling so much and I was so ungrounded in my like earth-based life. I called myself an air plant, which I love. I do. I love that I got to live life that way. And I also admit the ways in which it taxes the system. And Eight of Cups emotionally wasn't sustainable for me to keep up. I realized that I wanted to do spiritual work with people who were conscious of the work that they were doing, as opposed to like showing up spiritually to help people who were like in crisis. And it was my job to keep everyone safe, right? Anyway, so in March, I submitted a 5-page resignation letter to Delta. Hold on one second, actually. I will keep talking, but I'm going to leave camera for a second. So I submitted that resignation. And don't follow me. Don't follow me. There we go. And like a true budding creative, I posted my resignation letter on my Substack. So if you're interested, I do believe it's linked. But it is The Worlds We Co-Create on Substack. Anyway, I did it as a birthday present for myself. And, hold on. I'm talking really quickly, so I'm going to take a couple of breaths. I love how excited I get when I talk, but I often, like that ungrounded energy, I wander many places in the web as I'm storytelling. So here I remain in my body. So my resignation letter, I submitted it on March 18th of 2026, and it was one of the most liberating days of my life. But I quit with no backup plan. Like, I've been on this spiritual journey long enough to recognize that if you follow in the footsteps of what you want to do, what energizes your body, what feels like joy inside of your body, the more that you act in toward that feeling, the more the universe bends and shows up to support you. So I got that call actually in November of the previous year. November, or was it September? September 2025 was when I received the download of like, you're about to quit your job. And I was like, not until you give me what's next. Like, show me what's next then. If you really want me to quit, spirit, soul, whoever's talking to me, if you really want me to quit, show me what's next. The non-material realm doesn't really work that way. But I waited for a long time because I don't make decisions rashly, you know? I make them swiftly. And it often appears rash and irrational to a lot of outside people. But I received that download in September and took it up with my spiritual community in November. And, you know, I have my ancestral altar that I pray at every day and ask for guidance. And I was just like, what should I be doing? What should I be doing? What should I be doing? And do you know what I kept hearing in response? What do you want to do? And I was like, fuck, I don't know. What should I be doing? And then I would hear, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to be a good person. I want to use my gifts. I want to use them to help other people and make the world a better place. And the response that I kept getting back from my own soul was like, like the trip up of all white Western worldviews of trying to be a good person is so deeply playing into the infantilization of everyone who is experiencing obstacles. The really nasty charity industrial complex, the saviorism. And so my soul was really trying to get me to see, like, girl. And I'm a they, them, but I use girl in a gender neutral way. She, her, they, them are my pronouns. But my soul was like, no, the sensation that you have to tap into inside of your body that will lead you where you want to go is one of desire. So what's your relationship with desire? And shout out to Xenia at Gardens of the Imaginal, also on Substack, because I did a lot of work through her containers, coming back into relationship with, like, what is a need, what is a want, and what is a truth? Like, how do I define these things in my life? And so working in her imaginal healing containers was really transformational for me. And I've been working with her for like 2 years now. I guess since October 20. What year is it now? 26? I think October 24 was when I found her on Substack. Anyway, so when I turned in my resignation letter, I had no idea what was happening, with the exception of I was happy to withdraw my retirement. So Delta does a 401k that they match. And so even though I had only worked there for 4.5 years, I was like, I am not going to time lock this money and think about how I might one day use it when it's free for me to remove at 59.5 years old. I was like, I don't care how much you fucking tax me. I would rather have that money be a literal asset in the now moment for me to build the life that I want, rather than put up with some like false sense of security baby blanket and keep that tied up in a system that I don't believe in until they deem it's appropriate for me to have access to it. Fuck that. So they skimmed 20% right off the top because of taxes, and I got the rest. So I recognized that I had been moving for so long, like hopping around from place to place, and just that air plant energy, I felt like it was dangerous for me to quit all at once. And just like the pressure to pick a place that I wanted to be was too great. I was kind of freaking out. Because everywhere that I go as a traveler, I'm like, I can see myself living here. There are very few places that I don't want to go again. So when I quit, my partner and I, we had just started seeing each other in September the year before, but he was also in between jobs. And we both kind of want to explore what entrepreneurship looks like as a spiritual endeavor. Knowing that anytime you engage in a new relationship, you are going to, or I say new relationship, anytime you choose to accept expansion, you are going to meet parts of yourself that are resistant to that expansion. And so that's what I mean by a spiritual endeavor, is that being in a new relationship with a person or with a town, or with the new version of yourself that you're trying to give birth to, there are always going to be parts of you that are like, freaking out. So he, they, and I, we're both non-binary. It's a really cute, we're very like hetero presenting, but we like to say we're both daddy and we're both baby. So that's been really fun. Ooh, but something is emerging now of like, oh, that might be private. I'll wait. Anyway, we decided to go on a cross-country road trip. I was ready to withdraw that money, and I was like, let's do it. Let's just play. Let's see what happens when I actually feed this feeling of, I've been to almost every state, but I never got to see it on my terms. I was always setting my alarm to ungodly hours, making sure that I didn't do anything, like that I didn't stay up too late, or that I didn't miss the bus, miss the crew van or whatever. And, I traveled with the responsibility of taking care of people. And so it was really amazing. Honestly, we left on April 18th and we left without a plan, which was really hard for him because he's done a cross-country road trip before, but he booked every single accommodation before he left Portland. And on that trip from Portland to Georgia, he had everything like planned out to a T. Meanwhile, I am the one who's like, the accommodation that is meant for us will always be available for us exactly when we need it. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, how can you go about life doing that? And so I was like, listen, I'm asking you to experiment with me, because my life has been graced with such synchronicity. I felt undeserving of how much magic I receive and how much magic I am capable of doing in my life. Like, it's stupid. Like, I'm not asking for any sort of sympathy of like, oh, your life is so great. But I mean the ways in which my spiritual growth has always managed to meet the obstacles that I am going through, leaving me flourishing on the other side. Like, it's just something that I deeply want to share with other people. So that's part of this mission, this kahea, to use a Hawaiian word that my friend imparted to me. This divine inward calling. I can't describe in words the magic that takes place when I get to share psychic fields with another person. We have mind-blowing conversations despite having never met each other before. And so I was like, I want to continue having these conversations, spirit, but I can't do it as a flight attendant anymore. It's too unstable. And I just felt a bunch of shifts and changes coming up in the industry too, that I was like, I want to be earthbound. I want to root in one place. I have so many theories about how people build like healthy, stable relationships with each other. But I'm not in one place for long enough to see people more than once most of the time. So going on this road trip with my partner was huge because it took all of the conflict resolution skills that I have been practicing in classes and put them with like in a confined space with a single human after I had been alone for most of the hours, for most of the days, for most of my life for the past 5 years. And we're still together, which is really cool. Although together isn't always the point of a relationship, right? Ending a relationship isn't a failure, but because I know how to make relationships last, but I am now practicing how to sustain a healthy relationship, fully honoring myself without merging into some like weird amalgamated blob of the two of us, or just completely acquiescing and taking on his life as my own, you know? Oh, there is a quote from an Irish folktale about Macha, who is said, I have heard it said that Macha is like the horse goddess, that is also related to, or an aspect of the Morrigan, however you say it. But she takes on she transforms into a horse and can transform into a woman. And anyway, she meets this man and is like, ooh, I really want to like be a part of his life. I really just want to be in his house. But to her, it ends up being to her detriment. And a quote from the story that I read said, I forgot who I was when I begged for shelter under his bridled life. I forgot who I was when I begged for shelter under his bridled life. And that quote, I had it written on my wall because I want to remember that in any relationship that I carry forward in. To make sure that I am not using a relationship as a bridle to keep me on a path that somebody else is directing, you know? But anyway, time isn't linear and neither is my storytelling. So I know that I'll come back and tell stories of the trip that we made. It was from April until May, April 18th until, I guess, April 18th to June 12th. Was our traveling, and we saw the most amazing places and we met the most amazing people. And if I ever learn how to edit videos and stuff, I'll like put a map up and show where we went and stuff. But the point of this is that we fell so deeply in love with the city of Denver that we ended up staying. So our road trip never ended. We just, like, I'm living now in a rented sunroom that we found on a website called Furnished Finder, which is really helpful, honestly. But we landed and the land asked us to stay, and it feels like home. And I have met as soon as we got here, I was like, I am pursuing my interests. And so the day after we moved in, I ended up going to, it was called Plants and Dance. It was a choreographed dance class inspired by the energetics of chamomile. So we would like meet together and drink tea and learn about the plants from an herbalism book. And then the teacher would get up and like walk us through this routine. And I didn't know anybody, but having been so used to walking around my whole life, not knowing people, it felt so good to be like, oh, I can hit it off with a person And it can be a wonderful interaction that doesn't have a follow-up. And I can also see people a second time. I am in a place where I get to be building community. And today is the day of the Aquarius full moon. And so I want to talk about building community. I want to talk about building community in a way that honors our childhood selves. Because the thing is, Leo is in the South Node and Aquarius is the North. South Node is in Leo and the North Node is in Aquarius. And we've done the performing. We've done the role playing. We know how to manipulate where we need to go from an egoic standpoint. But the general push into collective change is asking us, can we strip away all of the masks that we have laid on top of our true selves in order to perform our way into getting where we think we need to go? And instead, can we let the truest version of that little kid who never felt like they fit in, that little kid inside all of us who thought they were too weird or too loud or too emotional or too whatever, can we build a future world where our inner children are safe and where these bodies get to explore an ever-developing journey of what authenticity means to each of us? So many of the problems that I see looking around the world is we think we have to perform a particular set of roles in order to be seen as or to fit in with this vision that we've been carrying. But that is energetically exhausting and unhygienic. It's literally bad for us. That's where so much of our health problems come from. Yeah. So this Aquarius full moon, it is about deep transformation. It is about deep innovation. It is about leaving the masks behind and understanding that who you are underneath all of it is the only person who can rise to meet this moment of destabilization and uncertainty is inviting you to be your whole fucking self. And I'm saying that to me too. I also got the Two of Swords in reverse. I also got the Devil in reverse with the Three of Cups. And I think that this is so beautiful for the types of collective calling in that's happening in this time. Like, if you choose to howl, oh baby, you're gonna find your pack. You're gonna find your pack. This is about meeting. It's using the innovative air quality of Aquarius to find the people who you're meant to build community with, where yourself is not sacrificed. I don't know if I told all the pieces of the story that I wanted to tell, but ultimately I wanted to say I've landed in a new place after a lot of time traveling. And I am pursuing creative entrepreneurship, but I also landed a job in a really magical way. And I think that's going to be the story for next time. So thank you guys so much. If you're here, I love you, because how'd you find me? But I have a little happy hour get together with my new coworkers. And so I haven't met anybody yet. So I'm going to go do that now. But happy Aquarius full moon, and happy Jupiter and Leo, Jupiter and Sun conjunction in Leo. It's a big day today on the 29th. I probably won't post this to tomorrow, but thank you. Take care.